What's up, fandom? My name is Josh, and today we've got a special episode. We're going to be talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 3, The Ghosts of Illyria. There's no the, it's just Ghosts of Illyria. We added the for fun. But joining us once again, we have the lovely and talented Mr. Bill Wolkoff.
Hello everybody. Hello, what's up, fandom people and Star Trek people.
I'm hoping more Star Trek people. Based on our kind of our listeners, it's probably Star Trek people.
I'm imagining there's some out there, and perhaps you'll have some more soon.
Hopefully, yeah. And Bill, you co-wrote this episode 3.
I did. I co-wrote Ghosts of Illyria with the amazing TV and feature writer Akela Cooper, who is Akela had a very well-known movie, horror movie come out this last year, and I was lucky to get to work with her while she was doing that also, and we were assigned to write one of the earlier season 1 scripts. Fun fact, just the way, we broke the episodes in order, but the way they were written, just in terms of time allocation, this wound up being the second to be written after our pilot episode. Oh, nice. So no pressure on Akela and I there.
Here's the pilot. Here's the second episode. You better nail it.
Yes. So yeah, we had that terrifying moment of, we're the first people to turn in a script to Henry and Akiva after the pilot. Okay. And then the first script to go into studio and network. But happily they liked it.
Nice. So we have the pilot episode, then we have our Space Comet episode, and now you're our Ghost episode. So there's probably some sort of like dead planet soon, I'm sure. Maybe a space fountain. I'm sure there'll be something else. We're making it all fun.
There are lots of genres we get to explore in this series, which is exciting.
I'm ready for the space stand-up episode. I'm sure there'll be a musical episode in season 3, because that's just the way it usually works out. We've not had a Trek musical episode. I want you guys to be the first Trek musical episode. Like, you should push for that. I'll allow it, Bill. If you can push for us, if you'll push for, I don't know, Strange New Worlds, the music. I don't know what that would be. Some sort of organism, I'm sure, kind of like gets inside. Everybody starts singing.
Well, I'm glad you'll allow it. It's nice to know that Josh Kane and What's Up Fandom would be down for that.
I'll call Johnny and Susie Paramount, and we'll make it happen. Don't worry.
Well, we're talking about a horror episode today, right? Episode 3.
We'll wait a couple years when we do the space musical episode comes out. We'll wait a bit. I will say, like, just from the opening of this scene, because we've got a nice commentary going over, which is great. But I like, just from the opening of this scene, we have the planet and then the storm just kind of like going off. It's such a beautiful shot. That shot at the beginning, and then the shot at the end where like the ion storm is like leaving the planet. Those two, I'm just like, man, if I had I've got an OLED TV, and so thank you Paramount for the screeners and everything, but I'm ready for that to come out on like 4K Blu-ray, so I can just like plug that in there and have like that no latency delay. Oh, it's gonna look so nice.
When Akela and I were writing it, we were like, it's got to be a huge storm, in space, and we figured, can we get away with this? Can we do this? So we wrote something. We wrote a bunch of VFX shots, and I kept thinking, obviously this is a big show, and that Star Trek has VFX shots. But when your head is in a TV budget, sometimes you don't imagine it's going to be as big and amazing as the VFX team pulls off. And that shot that you're referring to, when it, when we first saw what it was, my mind was blown. It was it exceeded the expectations of what we had done on the page, and certainly you get the idea of the ion storm from space bleeding onto the planet. So we're so lucky that we get to work with the teams on this series. They are Legacy does the effects, and I mean, just blew us away with that VFX shot. So that was really exciting.
And so the whole like kind of gist of that, we're gonna very minor spoilers because we want you to watch the episode, check it out now on Paramount Plus. With this episode, I really like the Illyrians, because I think we had Illyrians like one episode, like back in like Enterprise. I think it's been a while since we had any mention of Illyrians, like, period. And so I just, it's nice. Like, it kind of feels like what Strange New Worlds and something like Lower Decks is doing, where it's like we have all of this, Star Trek lore that we can just like pull stuff from. And I feel like that's, kind of what, Strange New Worlds is doing here with, like, hey, we're bringing the Illyrians back. They were in like an episode of Enterprise where I think Archer steals their warp core and says deuces and like strands them out in space to die. And so it's like, that's cool.
You remember that well.
So there was that. Well, because like I just recently like watched all of Enterprise, because I was like, you know what, I haven't watched Enterprise in a hot minute, let's watch Enterprise. So like that happens, and then like there's like all the stuff that Lower Decks is doing, just bringing anything and everything that they want to in. So I'm hoping for Deltons, just saying. Deltons. We haven't had a Delton since the motion picture, right? Is that the last Delton we've had?
Well,
no, we got some on Enterprise too.
And Picard, there was some Deltons in season 2, but not a lot. But there was like a Delton scene, I think, or two in season 2 of Picard. But I mean, I think you're talking full Delton.
Yeah, I want like full Delton. I want I want motion picture Delton. But yeah, so bringing the Illyrians, like, is that something that you guys were like, hey, here's a list of stuff that you can choose from, or did you know that you wanted to do something and like expand on a species that we know very little about?
Well, it's part of that is from the canon and established history that's, I guess, would be considered non-canon, but is in the in the books and the comic books for number one, for Una. And he was either in a book or a comic book, and I forget exactly where, but there was a suggestion that she might have been Illyrian. And that was really interesting. That was a very interesting, and this is a spoiler for, so like, hopefully this will come out the day after the episode drops. Or well enough, after the episode drops, but it made a really fascinating backstory for Una, and the Illyrians at that time did not have a lot of backstory created in the canon of that Enterprise episode that you're speaking of, other than that they had been mistreated by the Federation. So that was our launching, our springboard for that story, it became a poignant way to tell a great number one story, where we get a sense of who she is and what her backstory is, and what led her into Starfleet, and why she loves Starfleet, but why it's has ideals to aspire to, but sometimes it needs to get to the ideals that are, it's not always there yet. And I think that's a great metaphor for our world today. And you know, where we are today as a people, that we have a system that fails a lot of the people that live within it in our world. But some would say that the system is also, there's good in it, and that we can get to a better place. And that was the hope that we wanted to, show through Una, and through her backstory as an Illyrian.
Yeah, like kind of just going off of that, like there's that really good scene with like Una and Mbenga, and they're talking in sickbay about like the prejudice and everything like that. Of like, yeah, we started like this, and now there's prejudice towards people, like with the Vulcans and everything, and now Illyrians. And I'm like, man, that's just a good. It's like it kind of just shows like it still happens, like it will continue to happen, unfortunately, and it just picks a different group of people. Like it could be a group of people, or it could be Illyrians in this instance, and it's just like. It's like, yeah, even in the future, like we've not figured everything out, unfortunately. So I thought that was really good. I do like that you guys kind of made like a Naked Time episode. Like when I first watched it, I was like, this is like Strange New Worlds, like Naked Time or Naked Now. Like I was like, that's we've got the thing that's infecting the crew, and like some people are okay, some people aren't. It's like it's a race against time to see. I was like, I like that. I thought that was really nice. Also, I just want to talk the away team. Those jackets, by the way, fly. Those, like I haven't gotten to talk about the uniforms for this series. Like I'm loving the uniforms. I love how like they've got the little on the shoulders, kind of going down the arms. Like it's not their station. What would you call that? Like what, like their job? What do you? I don't know what.
That refers to the gosh, I need to look at it again. Called? Like, but it's your rank is
I mean like on the shoulders, like it's got the because like on their emblem, like on their communicator, it has like either the swirly or the cross.
Right. That's which department you're in.
Yeah, the department. Yeah, so it's like got those like on like the sides.
Yeah,
like going down. I'm like, that's fly. That's pretty. It's pretty nice. I'm like, ooh, that's some really nice unis. And those jackets, I was like, man, those jackets. If they sell those in the store, I'm gonna pick up one of those jackets because those are just tight.
We need to put those wardrobe needs to put those jackets. They're amazing. Those away jackets are, everybody on set is coveting them. Everybody wants one. So we've got to get them, out there. But wardrobe is protecting them, very strictly
I mean,
under lock and key.
I would imagine like it's like once you're done with your scene, you take those off right now. We're gonna take these and we're gonna go put them up. We're gonna no one gets access to these except us in the wardrobe department. So in this episode, we have a lot of talk, like we learn a little bit more about La'an. I'm just calling her okay. Khan. I've just been calling her Khan. And she's a Noonian soon. I'm like, she's Khan. So we learn a little bit more about that. With her actually, we now getting to yes, she is a descendant of Khan. So I don't think that's mentioned in either the first or second episode. But in the third episode, it's like, no, we're actually going to be like, no, she's a descendant of Khan. She's related. We get a little bit more on the eugenics war, which it's so weird because I was talking with one of my friends, Oliver. He's been on a couple of shows when we do Star Trek. I was talking. I was like, what they Star Trek's not really done anything with the eugenics war. Like they mention it a few times and then just don't do anything with it. And then like in this series, it's like they've mentioned the eugenics war more than any other time, really. It's like you get a couple mentions in Enterprise. A couple bits when we first introduced Khan in TOS. I think Q mentions it once in like Farpoint. I think the first time we meet Q, I think like he says it for like a split second. But yeah, like it's gonna be interesting because like we definitely have something that is building. Otherwise, you wouldn't mention the eugenics wars like every episode, it seems. So it seems like there's something building, and I'm really interested in that. What's one of the things that your key takeaways from this episode?
Uh, well, it's a big, it's a big piece of Trek lore that has a lot of meaning to everybody who's followed this series all the way back from Space Seed, and then obviously with Wrath of Khan, and then so here we have a descendant of Khan who is actually on the Enterprise, on Noonien Singh, and it's a stigma that she has had to live with her whole life, and just by bearing the name, and the takeaway for this episode is it both the character of La'an and getting a little bit more of her backstory and her history, having been a descendant of Khan and a descendant of a genetic augment, it should show how an institution that is as noble-minded as the Federation and as Starfleet can get a prejudice and a blind spot that's regrettable, and we can see how that plays out. We understand why they got to that place, even though it's totally wrong and not right. But it can help you say, okay, well, this is why this bad thing exists within this good institution, and then you have Illyrians who are genetically modified but are not the same as genetic augments, who are getting lumped into the same prejudice. And I think that's a universal theme that goes beyond our show, and it's a way that we could use our show to look at the world, and to look at a world where there's a place that has noble intentions and has good things within it, that also has blind spots and has things that need to be changed, maybe even like the United States. Just saying. Through looking at Starfleet, you can take what you looking at through how that conflict plays through Starfleet and the Federation and our characters. You can take from what you want, and if you see reflections of our world in it, great. We hope that it provokes interesting discussion and thought.
Yeah. I just kind of want to build up like what you're saying with the reflection. You can also see a little bit of like the way that, trying to say this without major spoilers, but the way that both Pike and Una kind of when Una addresses Pike and Pike kind of tells her, like, no, she's like, I'm an Illyrian, tells him, we have that bit. And then when Una confronts Mbenga about his situation, I thought that, and like both of them play it out so well that I'm just like, yeah, that you can kind of see, like, it's like, yes, like if you're good to people, it's like you will reciprocate the good. So it's like, and we can also see like it's a good thing. I don't think we have any cold, heartless monsters on this crew just yet. I don't know. Don't know. You never know. But as of right now, like at least in this episode, you do see where it's like, hey, yeah, that's you can do something bad, or something that unwittingly you do that could cause dangerous effects for the crew and the ship, but there's still forgiveness in that. And as long as you do that, like you ask for that forgiveness and say that it won't happen again, like things can happen. Like it's not like they're gonna boot you off, like they're not gonna put you in an airlock and like shoot you out into space or anything like that. So I thought that was really nice. But no, yeah, also M'Benga, like I'm like there's a couple things in this episode that I was like, man, I'm really looking forward to more stuff. M'Benga, I'm definitely looking forward to, and everything with the eugenics war and Khan and everything. So I'm like, I'm really happy that we got a little bit more stuff about that.
I am thrilled that we get to tell our first real M'Benga story in this episode, played by the amazing Babs Alusin-Moken. He is incredible. And I guess I should we should say you should probably watch the episode before listening to this podcast.
Yeah, if you got to hear and are watching, like, are be like, I'm gonna get a little bit of stuff before the episode, that's a mistake. Why would you do that? Like,
watch the episode first, and then you're gonna get to decompress and like learn some more cool stuff by listening to this, right? That's
yeah.
But this episode, it's an Una #1 story first and foremost, and Rebecca Romaine.
She's killing it, by the way. Good Lord Almighty.
Oh, I mean, when we got to talk to the cast before we even wrote the episodes, we kind of folded them in with roughly where we were taking them for season 1, and Rebecca was all in for this ride, and she anchors this whole episode, and it was the first time that I think we get to tell. I mean, she is #1 in several episodes of Discovery and is amazing, but this is her story. Like this is the first real #1 story, and she's amazing, and we're so lucky to have her lead that. But this is also a major Dr. M'Benga story, and for those of you who aren't as familiar with the original series, Dr. M'Benga was introduced in the original in several episodes of the original series. He is still a doctor, no longer the chief medical officer of the Enterprise. It's in the original series, it's somebody you might have heard of named Dr. McCoy, but we see but he's introduced in the original series, and that was a character that we wanted to pick up on. In the original series, he was played by, I believe, Broderick Bradshaw was the name of the actor. And Babs really took the character and made it his own. And we got to design a very cool story for him. He's a real actor's actor, brings some real gravitas to the part, and he's also very funny too. I will say that. But this is a story where he brings some real weight to what's happening around us, which we needed for a story involving, as you pointed out, like Naked Time. This is a pandemic story also. Wow,
God. You know what? Yeah, you right. It's a pandemic episode. That like went right over my head. I was just thinking in terms of Star Trek, but no, yeah, you pandemic episode. Good job.
But you know, I would say Naked Time is also a pandemic episode
Yeah.
in its own way. That was the perfect vehicle to really dig into Dr. Mbanga you know, so not only is this story, you know, a number one story and a Dr. Mbanga story, it's also a story about the two of them together as well. And we see a relationship form between them, and you'll get to see the beginning of some of the dynamics, the crew dynamics on our ship that we get to build to over the rest of the series, over the rest of, pardon me, the season. And that's just the beginning, but like it's an opportunity to say, okay, this is the kind of the dynamic these two people have, and this is why. And you know, we keep building on that foundation episode as each episode comes out.
Yeah, it was also nice. I mean, like, you do have, you know, some Pike and Spock moments, but they're, you know, kind of on, they're doing their own case. They've got their own case to solve. I like how there's two separate things going on at once. Also, Green Blood, nice, brought Green Blood back. Haven't seen Green Blood in a bit, so that was nice. Yeah, there was just lots of, you know, different stuff in there. Like, yeah, again, like, we get the Khan reference, we get the eugenics wars, we get Green Blood. It's like, what more could you want in an episode? I do like the differences in the characters, and I also like that all of our characters are getting kind of like their moments. I'm not gonna name other shows where it doesn't feel like you get to know a lot about, you know, your crew. Just saying. Sometimes you don't even know their names. But no, like, I like 3 episodes into this one, like, we're getting at different episodes. We had a Pike episode, we had an Uhura episode, we have a Una episode. We're learning more about Mbanga. Who knows? Maybe a couple episodes or so, maybe we'll get a La'an episode. Maybe, who knows? Who knows how the stories go? And so, like, some Himmer stuff, like, maybe we'll get some stuff with that, because, like, that's a whole, like, he's a whole character where you're just like, what in the this is like a whole thing. So, like, it's nice that we have, you know, different stuff like that. I feel like that's kind of what is making this show so good. And again, only 3 episodes in, I'm really digging this. Especially this episode. This felt like the most Star Trek episode that I've seen in years. Like, across multiple Treks, I will say I have not watched the 2nd season of Picard or the rest of this current season, or the last episode of Discovery. But, like, through Picard, Discovery, Lower Decks, this feels like the most Star Trek episode that we've had. Like, it was giving me like old school Star Trek vibes, and that's what I'm really appreciating about the show, and I'm really excited to see more and see where all of these characters are going to end up.
Thank you. Well, I let me respond to that in 2 ways. First, I thank you very much. We're you know, this show, because it is on the Enterprise before the TOS era, we very much wanted to evoke the spirit of TOS with a modern sensibility, with, you know, with everything that we know about our world today, and with modern, you know, just, we've gotten better at TV. In TV, we figured out how to shoot things better and more efficiently, and we can, you know, so we can do it in that spirit. I know it's there are many different shows, Trek shows out there right now. And it's complicated. I'm going to sound like a company person, but I truly believe this. Like, not every Trek show is going to be for everybody, yeah. But I so appreciate and love the Trek shows that are not trying to evoke the original series, that are trying to really do something different and find their own thing. And I think they do it successfully and wonderfully. I'm a big fan of Discovery. Before I worked for Secret Hideout ever, I was a big fan of Discovery. So getting to, I first started working for Secret Hideout on a show called Man Who Fell to Earth, which is also out right now. And then I got invited onto this show. And back then when I was watching Discovery, I think there's ways to maintain the spirit, like the initial spirit, and also find, ways to tell new stories. So I love the other Trek shows that I take to heart the compliment that this feels like old Trek. We're definitely trying to do that, also with our own twist. But I also don't want to feel like I'm saying, oh, those other shows don't,
Yeah.
I deeply love those other shows. And the people that work on them are so smart and care about Trek deeply. They're made with such passion and love. I think there's a place for both in the world. And I am delighted that Strange New Worlds has gotten so far a really positive response. And that makes me very happy. And very proud. But I would never want it to come at the expense of the other shows. I think that we exist on their shoulders. Like, we're standing on their shoulders. Like there would be no Strange New Worlds were it not for Discovery.
Yeah. Oh no, and I'm gonna backpedal a lot here, guys.
I didn't mean to say that you were doing that.
Well,
it's just
when you were explaining, I was thinking over what I said. I was like, oh yeah, I think I just shat all over those. Was not my intention at all. I was just the way in my mind that it was playing out was old school Trek, classic Trek, not new Trek, classic Trek, where that's kind of where my mind was going. So, but no, yeah, I think Lower Decks may be one of my favorite Star Trek entities, just because it's so ridiculous and
it's so good.
But no, yeah, Discovery is great. I mean, especially we hadn't had a Star Trek in when was Enterprise done? It was
2003-ish.
Yeah, it was almost 15 years.
20 years ago.
20 years, yeah, between Star Trek. So it's yeah, no, we're not Star Trek, I thought Star Trek was dead. And then we had the JJ movies and everything. It was maybe Star Trek's alive. Maybe Star Trek's alive a little bit, And then Discovery comes out and you're okay, Star Trek back. And then Picard comes out and you're yeah, Star Trek's still back. And then you get Lower Decks, and then you get Strange New Worlds. So yeah, it's the weirdest thing is we've got 4 different Trek shows going on at once, and maybe a 5th one, who knows? And that's never a thing. It's one of those you had TOS, you waited a while, you had Next Gen, and then you had a little bit of DS9 crossover. And then you had DS9, and you had a little bit of Voyager at the same time. And then Enterprise was by itself. But now it's now you have 4 different Star Treks. Have fun, kids. It's oh my gosh, it's mind-boggling. Never in my years would I think that we would have 4 Star Trek shows and 4 Star Wars shows that aren't movies all playing at the same time. It's a crazy world we live in now.
I think I as a fan, I feel lucky. And as a fan who also gets to work on the show, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. So we are kind of running a little bit short on time, but I just wanted to say a couple things. So first off, Bill, again, thank you so much for coming on. Love it whenever you come on. You're insightful and you wear a tie. So,
and you're wearing a tie too again. I noticed that.
The only time I wear ties is when Bill comes on the show. Yeah. That's the only time.
I feel like you're not getting the full extent of my tie.
Bro,
yeah, what? So these are not stripes. These are warp trails.
The warp trails?
They're warp trail stripes, which I think should be an official, tie pattern. Warp trail tie pattern, right?
Yeah.
To go with houndstooth and herringbone. Get a warp trail.
If you could
Paisley.
somehow if you could somehow make like the knot part, like depending on what your like if you're double or single Windsoring it, like if you could have like some sort of like logo right there, like the insignia, that would be pretty dope.
I'll have to work on that.
One day it'll happen. And the next like is kind of a question like, what's it like getting to write on Star Trek? Because I mean, like we had you on like the first time I think we met was like for Kipo, and that was fun. And then we've had you on for some other Star Trekky stuff because you're a fan. But what's it like writing for Star Trek?
It's it's a big responsibility. And in writing this episode, a dream, but also a big responsibility. I take it very, very seriously. I remember when we were first going to draft on this episode, and I started to type the words the letters SPOCK in a character, and I realized, oh my God, I'm actually writing a piece of dialogue for Spock. And it has to be as good as any dialogue that he's had over these many years.
Over what 50 years of Spock?
That's a big responsibility. I take it extremely, extremely seriously. And it's a dream. I'm so grateful for the universe that has been set by so many amazing, amazing artists and writers before me on all the show's original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Discovery, and Lower Decks even. I grateful for everybody who's set unique tones and unique worlds, and I'm so mindful of that coming into this. But it's the coolest thing in the world. It's blowing my mind. I also I got to write for a show called Star Wars Rebels, which is an animated show set in the about 10 or 15 years before A New Hope. And when I remember when I was writing that first episode, and I was writing a TIE fighter fight, it was like blowing my mind. And I felt the same level of responsibility. Like, okay, I'm writing a TIE fighter fight. This is better not this. It's got to be like different than any other TIE fighter that's ever been done, and it better be tied to emotion in some way. So I'm not a stranger to the anxiety that goes with carrying the weight of a big franchise. And I feel very lucky and want to do a show that would make, if I weren't writing on it, would make me happy. And hopefully we've done that.
Nice. I will say, if you ever want to make TIE fighters interesting, barrel rolls or aerials, like they never do that. It's always straight. It's always straight and turn. They never they bank, but they never loop-de-loop. It's like, make one do a loop-de-loop. Everybody be like, wow, that's a maneuver that's a little bit better than drifting lazily to the left. I'm just saying. But Bill, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, sorry, my stupid brain, it doesn't work very well. But I last thing I want to say, I watched the episode again last night, just for prep, and I thought it the first time, but then I saw it again the second time. When you Ensign Lance, when he gets infected the first time, I thought that was Timothee Chalamet. Like, I thought you guys got Timothee Chalamet on. Like, I was like, did they get Timothee Chalamet? Like, I was very confused. It's
I love this.
Daniel Gravel. I apologize if I said
very
your
young
name
actor,
incorrectly.
Daniel Gravel. No, I think that's right.
Like, but no, like I thought, I was like, Timothee like, I was like, in my head, I was like, how in the world is Timothee Chalamet like a big Star Trek fan? Because like, if that's a thing, like, I'm like, yeah, put him in more stuff. Have Ensign Lance and things.
Well, I'll tell you, you're not the first person that said that to me. When we were casting that part, it was a COVID situation, so I'd be sent the tapes. Nothing was in person. And our showrunners had the final say, but they would, as episode writers, Henry and Akiva let Akale and I, have a big hand in producing the episode. So we got to see all the audition tapes, and my wife has just great instincts. She's also as a writer, and I was watching the tapes with her, and she says, "Oh, you got to cast young Timothee Chalamet." So
she was right. I was just gonna say she was right. Like the fact that I had the double take, like last night I was like, I was having a little bit of a sip of something. I was like, it's not Timothee. I know it's not Timothee Chalamet, but could be. They need a stand-in for Dune, like call Daniel. But no, Bill, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it. Where can people find you social media wise, and maybe some of the stuff that you got coming out?
You can find me at flying_lobster on Twitter. That's my my Twitter handle, or Bill Wears Ties on the Instagram. We've got, episode 3 of Strange New Worlds should be coming out either today or it's just come out, called Ghosts of Illyria. And I'm also one of the season 1 writers on Man Who Fell to Earth on Showtime. So definitely check out that show. It is also awesome, and I could talk for a long time about that. That is coming out week to week right now, also as we speak. So those are the big things.
Nice. And Kipo.
Kipo's
still out on Netflix. Go check it out. The Emmy Award-winning series, Kipo.
Emmy Award nominated, but thank you. I'm an Emmy loser, but proudly.
Emmy loser, Bill Wolkoff. Hey, we still got time for Strange New Worlds. Like, if Ghosts of Illyria gets nominated, you got a really good shot. I mean, what are you going up against? Ted Lasso? You'll win. It'll be fine. Bill, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you, Paramount, for letting us check out the first few episodes of Strange New Worlds. Definitely check out Star Trek Strange New Worlds on Paramount Plus. Thursdays. I was thinking of the time. I was like, when does it usually drop? Like,
I think it drops.
It's like
midnight on the West Coast. Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
On the East Coast, it's 2 a.m.
In Oklahoma, it's 2 a.m. So that's when it drops here. So I'm usually up because so check it out. You check it out there. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Kane. Find the podcast on Instagram at What's Up Fandom, on Twitter at What's Up Fandom PC for podcast. All of our episodes available: iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, Spotify, Audible. Check out our video content on YouTube and on our website, animationstationpodcast.com. Thanks to 1 out of 10 for the intro and outro for this episode. Check them out on Spotify. That's 1 out of 10. And yeah, Bill, thanks so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and it gives me an excuse to dust off the ties.
Josh, I hope to come on and talk to you more. About Strange New Worlds and other stuff. I love coming on. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. So for What's Up Fandom, I'm Josh.
And I'm Bill Wolkoff.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Where's the... Oh, there it is.
I'm not the leading authority on action, poetic, or using big words. But this writer is my philosophy about living in such a world, yeah.